Yep, another one bites to the dust. Ma'am, you made your bed. You need to lie in it. You cannot be cheating on your husband because you're bored. Really? Like, guys, I cheated because I was bored and I had a work husband, so I gave in to it. Ugh, it's disgusting.
Subject: I didn't expect to be shamed by my own sister after ruining my marriage. Hi, True. I never imagined I'd be writing into a channel like yours. Honestly, I wasn't even supposed to find you. I didn't think someone like me, someone who did something so shameful and unforgivable, would be the kind of person whose story anyone would want to hear, let alone share. But here I am. My name is Maya. I'm 42 years old, divorced, and for the first time in my life, I'm starting to feel the weight of my own decisions in a way I never expected. It's funny, I've spent most of my adult life thinking I was ahead of the game, like I had time, like I had options. But recently, I realized I was wrong, painfully, regretfully wrong, and I want to tell you how I got here. It started with the conversation I had with my younger sister, B. We're close in age, but we've never really been close in the emotional sense. Still, after the divorce, I didn't know who else to talk to. I needed someone to just listen. I called her and asked if I could come over, and she said yes. She made tea. We sat in her living room, and I just started talking. I told her the whole thing. I told her how I ruined my marriage, how I betrayed a good man, how I had the nerve to feel resentful in a marriage that, looking back, was more stable than I deserved. I told her everything: how I cheated, how I was caught, and how I ended up alone. She didn't interrupt once. I remember thinking, wow, she's actually being supportive. But when I finished, she leaned back, crossed her arms, and just started laughing. And not the warm, sympathetic kind of laugh. It was bitter, cold. She looked at me with this face I'll never forget and said, "You are so stupid. You had a man like George and threw it all away for what? A fling." That hurt. But then she kept going. She said, "You've never been able to keep a man. Not in high school, not in college, not even when you got one to marry you. And now look at you. You're 42 and divorced because you couldn't control yourself." I didn't even know what to say. I just sat there stunned. And then she said something I still can't get out of my head. She said, "You know why Dad left Mom, right? He caught her cheating too. You don't remember because you were young, but I do. That's why he left us all and moved overseas. He didn't want anything to do with her after that. You're turning into her." That broke me. I always told myself Dad just left, that he couldn't handle the stress, that he didn't love Mom anymore. I never knew he walked in on her cheating. And to have that thrown in my face after I had just confessed my own sins felt like someone had dug a hole in my chest and stuffed it with ice. Then she said, "You need to own up to what you did, Maya. George is a great man. There was no reason for you to betray him like that. I'm ashamed of you." She said she was ashamed of me. I thought I came for comfort, maybe some guidance, but I left with my soul in pieces. She ended it by saying, "If you don't get George back, you'll never find anyone else. You're too old. Men your age want 20-year-olds. I should know. I'm older than you, and I can't find one either." I remember asking her, "So what am I supposed to do? Crawl back and beg?" She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Get your Jezebel spirit out of my house." That one sentence felt like a slap from every direction. I left and cried all the way home, not just because of what she said, but because I knew, deep down, that she wasn't wrong. I had lost everything, not just my marriage, but now the respect of my only sister. The walls of my life were caving in, and I had nowhere to turn. That night, I stayed up scrolling through relationship forums. I don't even know what I was searching for. Maybe validation. Maybe stories like mine. I just wanted to feel like I wasn't the only woman who had messed up her life beyond recognition. I stumbled onto a thread about wives who regret cheating on their husbands. I must have read through 50 different comments, just soaking up the guilt, the pain, the regret of other women like me. And somewhere in the comment section, someone linked to a video. It led to your channel. I watched the first video and couldn't stop. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was hearing these stories told in a calm, thoughtful way. Maybe it was the rawness. Maybe it was the fact that I saw bits of myself in some of those stories. Either way, I was hooked. I told myself I wouldn't write in, that my story wasn't worth telling, that nobody would want to hear from the woman who destroyed her own life. But then I saw you reading emails, not just from men, but from women too. And they were honest. They weren't trying to sugarcoat anything. And I figured, why not? So here's the truth about what I did. George and I met at a friend's housewarming party. He was calm, observant, polite, the kind of man who didn't say much, but when he did, you listened. He had this quiet strength that drew people in. He made me feel safe. We dated for a year before he proposed, and we were married not long after. For the first couple of years, things were good. He worked in IT and provided more than enough. I had a job at a local marketing firm, and we had dinner together most nights. Weekend getaways once a month, and a quiet, predictable life. But by the third year, I started to feel bored. I don't even have a better word for it. Bored. George was so predictable. He never wanted to try anything new. I was craving excitement, novelty. I started to feel like I was fading into the routine of our marriage. I blamed him for that. Instead of talking to him, really talking, I started withdrawing. And then I started leaning into conversations at work with a coworker. He was flirtatious, funny, charismatic, the kind of guy who made everything feel light. I started meeting him for drinks after work. It started out innocent. It didn't stay that way. One night, it escalated. We slept together in a hotel, and after that, it became regular. Always at my place when I knew George would be working late or out with his friends. I lied to myself and said I wasn't in love with my coworker, that I was just scratching an itch. But over time, I grew colder toward George, less patient, less affectionate. I'd pick fights over nothing just so I could storm out and go see the other man. And then came the day I'll never forget. I had told George I was going to a late work meeting. Instead, I brought my coworker home. We were in our bed. The door slammed open. George stood there. He had this blank look on his face, but I could see the storm in his eyes. All he said was, "I knew it. I knew I'd catch you." I froze. My coworker jumped up and tried to cover himself. George didn't yell. He didn't throw anything. He just pointed and said, "Get out, both of you." The walk out of that house was the most humiliating moment of my life. Neighbors saw. I could feel the eyes on us. It was like my shame was stitched into my skin. Almost a month went by before I was served divorce papers. I called a lawyer right away. Her name was Lynn. I begged her to do anything she could to help me save the marriage. I'll never forget our conversation. Me, is there anything I can do to stop this? I don't want a divorce. I made a mistake. Lynn, Maya, he filed. That means he's made up his mind. Me, can we slow it down? Force counseling or something? Lynn, we can request that, but it's up to the judge to approve it. And your husband's side will argue that counseling isn't appropriate given what happened. Me, but I still love him. Lynn, that may be true, but you need to prepare yourself. Divorce is likely. We tried. Her firm filed motions. There was a back and forth between my lawyer and his. I sat in court hoping, praying that George would look at me, but he didn't. He stared straight ahead like I didn't exist anymore. Eventually, the judge approved the divorce. George didn't want anything from me, not the house, not spousal support, nothing. He just wanted out, clean. I walked out of that courtroom numb. I lost my husband, my home, and my dignity. And now, my sister too. It's been hard. I know I don't deserve pity. I made my bed. I betrayed someone who loved me and expected nothing more than loyalty. But if there's anyone reading this who's walking the same line I did, bored, tempted, chasing validation, you need to stop and think, because no moment of passion is worth destroying a life built on trust. Thank you for reading this, if you made it this far. Even if you don't share it, just knowing I wrote it down and someone out there heard me is enough. Sincerely, Maya. Subject: My mistake cost me everything. Part 2: A parking lot, a clock, and a harsh realization. Dear True, it's me again, Maya. I wasn't sure I'd write in a second time, but after the response to my first email and the overwhelming emotions I've been processing, I figured, why not? Maybe getting this out of my system will help me heal, or at least understand what the next chapter of my life looks like. So here I am again, emailing the YouTuber whose videos have weirdly become my therapist, mirror, and reality check. Since my last email, a lot has happened. Some good, some absolutely humiliating, and some that simply cracked my soul open in ways I wasn't ready for. Let me start with the most painful part. It was a Saturday. I had just finished running errands, picking up a few things from the grocery store, and I was walking through the parking lot, fumbling with my bags when I heard a familiar voice behind me say, "Wow, I didn't know you shopped with regular people." I stopped. My heart dropped. I knew that voice. George. I turned around slowly. He was standing by his car, arms crossed, sunglasses on, staring at me like I was something beneath his shoe. I wanted to disappear, just sink into the concrete and vanish. But instead, I forced out a weak hi. He didn't smile. He didn't soften. His next words hit me like a slap across the face. "So what? You shopping for your next coworker conquest?" A couple walking by actually looked at us when he said that. I was mortified, completely exposed. "George, please," I whispered. I felt my face flush with heat. He didn't stop. I warned myself, told myself not to trust you. "But you know what's crazy? I still hoped you'd be better than your mother." That one hit me right in the gut. He knew how sensitive I was about that. I don't even know how he found out. Maybe from my sister. Maybe I said it during a fight, but hearing it from him, in public, it broke something in me. I tried to hold back tears. I didn't want to give him that satisfaction. "George, I've been trying to change," I started. He cut me off. "Change? You think reading a few relationship forums and watching YouTube videos makes you a new woman? You humiliated me, Maya. I'll never forget walking in on you, half naked in our bed, with that clown from work. That image is burned into my brain." He shook his head, got into his car, and before pulling off, rolled down his window and said, "Keep healing, Maya, but don't think for a second I'd ever look back. You're not my problem anymore." Then he was gone, and I just stood there, frozen, my bags on the ground, people looking, my face soaked with tears I couldn't even feel. That was 2 weeks ago, and I'm still replaying every word. That encounter messed me up more than I want to admit. It forced me to confront the truth. I'm not just healing from a failed marriage, I'm grieving the person I thought I was and coming to terms with who I actually became. I started therapy a few months ago, online, since I couldn't stomach the idea of crying in front of someone in person. My therapist, Marla, is soft-spoken but doesn't let me avoid the hard stuff. And during one session, I asked her something that's been haunting me since the day George walked away. "Do you think people like me are just doomed to be alone?" She didn't answer right away. Instead, she asked, "Why do you think you're asking that question?" I said, "Because I'm 39. I cheated on the best man I've ever known. My own sister won't speak to me. And the dating world now, it's not made for women like me. Not with baggage, not with shame, not with wrinkles I pretend don't exist." She nodded slowly and said, "You're not doomed, but you're going to have to rebuild your sense of worth from the ground up. No shortcuts. No man can fix this for you." And she was right. I kept hoping I'd magically meet someone new, someone who'd erase the pain, the guilt, the shame, but that hasn't happened. Instead, I've been sitting in silence more than I ever have before. I've been waking up in a cold bed and facing a reflection that I barely recognize. You know what really set off a panic spiral? My period came late last month, a full 8 days late, and for a moment I thought, could I be pregnant? I wasn't. It was just stress. But that scare made me realize something chilling. The clock is ticking, loudly. My mother used to say, a woman's time runs out faster than she thinks. Back then, I thought she was being dramatic. Now, I get it. I'm watching the train leave the station, and I'm still on the platform. It's not just about having kids, though I do feel the ache of that too. It's about companionship, partnership, stability, all things I had and destroyed with my own hands. And the irony, my mother is now living alone. No man, no friends, just her and 3 cats. Every time I visit her, which isn't often, she talks about how all the good men are taken and how women like us are just meant to be strong on our own. I used to roll my eyes at that. Now I see it for what it is, a warning, a mirror. I am becoming her, and it terrifies me. There's this woman I follow on a forum who wrote, regret is like rust. It spreads, it stains, and no matter how much you scrub, it leaves a mark. I saved that quote. It stuck with me because regret is my roommate now. It sleeps in the same bed, follows me to work, and whispers in my ear every time I see a happy couple. Every time I walk by a baby aisle in Target. Every time I remember how George used to look at me like I was his whole world. Now he looks at me like I'm a virus he survived. And maybe I am. My sister still won't speak to me. I've sent her texts, emails, even wrote a letter, but nothing. The last message she sent me was after the parking lot incident. She said, maybe now you'll understand the damage you've caused. I didn't respond. I couldn't. Because deep down, I know she's right. I've been reading more stories lately. Ones from women who lost everything because they couldn't be honest with themselves. I read one just last night about a woman named Carla who had an affair, got divorced, and now lives in a studio apartment, working 2 jobs, completely isolated. And you know what she said? I would give anything to go back to the moment I chose wrong. That line broke me, because I would too. I'd give anything to go back to the night I told my coworker yes instead of no, to the moment I let resentment turn into betrayal, to the days I looked at George and saw boredom instead of the blessing he was. But time doesn't care about do-overs. It just moves forward, and you either move with it or you get buried beneath it. So here I am, trying to move forward, slowly, clumsily. Some days I still look at my phone hoping George will text. Some nights I stare at the ceiling and cry so quietly even I can't hear it. But I'm still here. I've started journaling, trying to understand what led me down that road, trying to peel back the layers. Turns out it wasn't just about George. It was about me feeling invisible, unseen, like I didn't matter unless someone else wanted me. And when George got busy with work and life, I mistook that for neglect instead of recognizing he was trying to build something for us. I confused stability for stagnation. That's on me. No one else. I'm not writing this to ask for sympathy. Honestly, I don't even think I deserve it. I'm writing this because maybe, just maybe, someone else out there will read or hear this and stop themselves before they ruin their life the way I did. And maybe, one day, I'll be okay with being alone. Maybe I'll find peace in silence instead of punishment. Maybe I won't turn into my mother, bitter and abandoned. Maybe there's still something good left in me, even if George will never see it again. And if he's reading this, or if by some miracle he hears this story on your channel, I just want to say, George, I'm sorry. Not because I got caught, but because I finally see you for who you really were. And I finally see myself for who I became. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to think about me. But I hope wherever you are, you found peace, real peace, the kind I threw away. Thank you again, True, for giving people like me a chance to speak, even if our stories are ugly, even if we're the villains. Sometimes the villains are the ones who need the mirror most. Until next time, if there is one, Maya.
Stay single. But I know why you don't want to stay single. I get it. Don't getting with a person to use them for, financial reasons or whatever is just so messed up. You get bored, pick up a hobby. Say, honey, listen, remember how when we first started dating and we'd go out all the time? Remember we'd have picnics, or you took me fishing and you taught me how to fish? Remember those days? Let's do it again. It's really that simple. You don't go cheat on somebody. And I feel like this with both ways, men or women. A man, you don't get bored and start cheating on your wife. Your wife gains a little weight. You don't start cheating on her. Hey, honey, let's go to the gym together. Let's work together. Like, what is wrong with people getting in monogamous relationships and deciding to hurt the other person? It's ridiculous. Stop. Guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments. If you want to send a story in, send it to truestorynation@gmail.com. Here, I'll put it on the screen. That is truestorynation@gmail.com. I'm going to catch you guys at the next one.